today's speakers. They're also amazing individuals. I'm going to begin with Dr. Shabnam Islam, who is a certified exercise physiologist and who can just take her classes at 7 in the morning. You know what I'm talking about, right? Servant leader? Absolutely. Former professor of kinesiology. And her work focuses on integrating behavioral economics, health sciences, and educational leadership. Her passion is transformation in all areas of life, especially for sustainability. And her motto is eat more, move, defy time with healthy lifestyle tips. Let's hear it for Dr. Next, I have two incredible chefs. I have Chef Babette Davis, and this woman is 74 years old. Gorgeous, and she had a huge perceptual filter shift in her life, where she decided that she wanted to help with transformation with her own self first, so she could really become healthy and teach others how to apply that wisdom through her knowledge. She is going to share how to live and maintain a healthy lifestyle through her plant-based lens. You'll enjoy that tremendously. She definitely walks your talk, right? Yeah. Let's hear it for her, yes! And last but not least, we have wonderful top vegan chef Chris Tucker. And I learned by going to his social media channel all about the tofu press. There's a tip on how to press the tofu. You can cook it in 15 minutes or less. Check it out. Good stuff. He comes from the South. He's a Southern chef and he turned vegan. And he has done amazing baked goods. He loves to do baked goods, savory meals. And this is a quote of his. Whatever dish somebody is craving, I can recreate it in vegan form. No harm to animals. Let's hear it for Chef Tucker.
How's everyone doing today? Yay! Is everyone enjoying this cruise? Is everyone having a good time? Learning a lot? Yes? Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us today for this discussion about aging gracefully. That's something Dr. Islam and myself are fortunate to watch Babette do every day. As her really close friends, we get to just sit back and watch her age gracefully by the lifestyle she lives, right? So that's what we're here to chat about. Everybody's always asking what's her secret, what does she do? They want to know, they want to look like her, they want to be her, and excuse me. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to talk about her story and where she came from, how long she's been vegan, what her fitness journey is, and most importantly, what her diet is like. So we're going to get into that and talk about all of that right away. As Karen was saying, Dr. Shabnam's here, and what she's going to be doing is talking about the science behind what it is that Babette is able to go through every day, this lifestyle, the macronutrients, the micronutrients, all of the things that she intakes from a nutrition standpoint, and why she's able to go through her days. They're very long, we'll get into that, and sometimes eat very little, sometimes eat a lot, depending upon what her workout regimen's like. But we're gonna kick it off and let Babette kind of open this up and start telling you about her journey into the plant-based lifestyle.
I'm first? There. Okay. All right. I am so unbelievably grateful to each and every one of you for being here. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I'm serious about that. You know, each of us has a journey. We've all been on a journey, and so have I. This thing called life, this human experience. I was born December 7th, 1950. Never met my biological father. My mother had a third grade education, but she was an incredible woman from the South. When I was 5 years old, And I know I was 5 because my younger sister was an infant, and I'm 5 years older than she. I had an experience with a babysitter's son. Now, I don't know if this person was an adult, but I was 5. It was a man. And he came into my bedroom, and he misused me at 5 years old. Now, I did not tell my mother. I didn't even tell his mother, who was there at the time. Going forward, I had a stepfather who also misused me. And I was probably more like 8 years old. Okay? My mother was a woman that knew that the importance of taking care of her children was not being on welfare, not asking for handouts, but to get out and work 2 and 3 jobs if necessary to get it done for us. And she did that. My mother had to leave us with caretakers. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in here that understands what happens sometimes when the caretakers cannot be trusted. My mother left me with a godparent that was cruel. I was beaten with extension cords. I was totally mistreated. When my mother would leave me with the godparent all week, and then my stepfather would come and pick me up, and he would sit me in his lap to drive me home and fondle me the entire way home. He was acting like he was teaching me to drive. So I was going through all of this as a child, and I never told anyone. Now, my mother worked 2 and 3 jobs, and she would sell dinners from her home on the weekends. We were never on welfare, never got food stamps. I cherish her for that. But at the same time, had we gotten the welfare, could she have been home with me? Yes, she could have. But she desired not to do that. So I never really mentioned any of this to my mother until I had my first husband, who was a bum. But hey, he's my husband. And she said something negative about him, and I couldn't help myself. I said to her, he may not endorse his paychecks and hand them to me, but there are things that your husband would do that my husband would never do to a child. And she said, what are you talking about? And I told her. And she was devastated. Going forward, I've been married 4 times. But that's because there was a lack of knowledge. I didn't know who I was. I did not know who I was. And so anybody that came along and acted like they liked me, hey, want to get married? It was one of those things where I had absolutely no knowledge of self, no love for self. My mother being an awesome cook, but my mother put refined sugar in everything she cooked. We were completely and totally addicted to sugar. That was my very first addiction. Refined sugar. My mother's spaghetti sauce was so sweet. You know, I used to always drink milk with sweet stuff. Well, you didn't drink the Kool-Aid with her spaghetti. You drank milk. It was like dessert. But she had us so addicted. And I asked her one time, Mom, how do you put sugar in everything? She goes, well, you know, we were sharecroppers. And when we grew food, if we grew peas, they were sweet. Corn was sweet. When I buy this food from the supermarket, I don't get that. So I put sugar in everything so maybe you can have the same experience I had. But she did not know that she was causing so much harm. I had eczema, asthma. I had a really, really hard childhood, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, I can't say that.
Thanks for sharing all of that with us. I think sometimes when we want to know all about somebody and where they are, like who they are, we have to start at the beginning. We have to really start at what built this person and made them the strong individual they are today. And so a lot of Babette's earlier years in development really shaped her in terms of this strong, successful woman that is now a business owner and has run, a incredible vegan restaurant in Los Angeles for so many years. And, would any of that have been possible if she didn't go through what she went through as a child? And so I think what would be a really good place for us to pick up right now is really thinking about, like, you've kind of come through childhood and you get out into the world on your own, and we've kind of gone through, like, mom adding sugar to everything. Would you say that sugar was, like, your first kind of addiction because it was just in the food?
It was totally the first addiction.
Yeah, and so did that lead into other things in life in terms of addiction and maybe going down paths that also helped shape you?
Well, I moved from Los Angeles. I was born and raised in LA, and I moved to Colorado in the late 70s, about 78, 79. I had one biological daughter, and she was born in 1971. So my first husband, the one that my mom used to talk about, and I and my daughter went to Colorado, and I went to beauty school and learned how to be a hairstylist, and then got a job with the airlines, Frontier Airlines, as a flight attendant, my very first flight attendant job. I met a person I pretty much separated, divorced from my husband, and met a drug dealer while I was in Colorado. And it was right at the beginning of the entire crack epidemic. He was dealing cocaine. And my younger sister, the one that was a baby when she was a heroin addict. My daughter's father, the first husband, was a heroin addict. And one time on a visit to Los Angeles, my sister at the time was still living in LA, she gave me a hit of crack cocaine. She said, "Now, do you know about cocaine?" I was like, "Yeah, I work with these European guys, they snort it." And she goes, "Well, now you don't have to snort it, you can smoke it." And I took the first hit and I went back to Colorado, and I told these guys, "Guess what? You do not have to snort cocaine. You can smoke it." I thought that was such an incredible find.
Oh, Lord.
But then my sister decided to move to Colorado as well. And because I'm dating a drug dealer who's selling cocaine, she decided one day that she would steal a clump of his cocaine. And that's when we started cooking it, and I became addicted to crack cocaine. I can remember coming off of a trip and my girlfriend picking me up and telling me I have a rock. And before I could get home in the car, she had to stop at a gas station so I could go to the bathroom to poop, because it was the excitement of getting ready to smoke this crack that made me feel that way. That was my second addiction. It was horrible. It was so debilitating. debilitating. It was the worst thing I've ever done. Sugar wasn't even that bad. Seriously. Crack ruined our community, and it was on the way to ruin me. One day, I was sitting in my old bedroom back, and I had moved back to LA. I quit Frontier Airlines, moved back to LA, trying to get away from the drug dealer and all the mess, and I was hooked up with another guy, and he and I were cooking cocaine rocks, thinking that the cocaine rocks, cooking them, were going to be our way to make a living. Anyway, I'm sitting in this bedroom. I had been smoking cocaine all day. I run out. My old bedroom at my mom's house was empty, but there was a piggy bank in that room. I started going through the piggy bank, and this voice out of nowhere says, "So that's who you are? Now you go through piggy banks." And I stopped that day, and I've never looked back. I ended it. I went nowhere. I can remember I went and got myself a job with Republic Airlines, that's now Delta. But I got a job with Republic Airlines, and I can remember having a paycheck and driving on the 10 freeway, and something said to me, "Man, you could get high right now. You just got paid." And the other voice said, "And ruin everything." And I never did it. I literally cleaned up that day in that bedroom with my mom at my mom's house.
You know, it's such a blessing, and a lot of people aren't that lucky to have that awakening, to have that little voice, and then to not even really have to go through a treatment or have to go and do recovery or even be in recovery to this day. There was just something that said to her, "I have to stop. This isn't the way I'm supposed to be living," and the willpower inside to just do it, right? It wasn't something that she needed to be involved with groups and stuff to manage. She just had it within her. I want to really shift the conversation a little bit now to how you went from that person who was so heavily addicted to several different things over the course of your life to transitioning into a plant-based all-star that you are. So let's focus the conversation now on how you got to be where you are.
Well, the gentleman that he and I decided we were going to cook crack cocaine rocks for a living, we were only married 6 months, so it was very easy to get out of that relationship. I met another guy, and he was the one that kind of helped my daughter and I get grounded. He brought us into his home, and I got a job, and she started going to private school, and life started leveling out. But he and I didn't make it. But I met my current husband, Mr. Babette Davis. And on my very first date, this guy takes me to Griffith Park in Los Angeles. How many of you are familiar with Griffith Park? Okay, so there are just massive inclines, this entire past Hollywood sign. This guy takes me to Griffith Park, and I'm thinking, so what kind of date is this? At least it ain't crack. So he runs, we're on these trails, and he's running this entire thing backwards. And I'm thinking to myself, I can barely walk this. This is not cool. I met him, I was about to turn 40 years old when I met him in 1990. He was going to be 42 in September. I would have turned 40 in December, and this was in the spring. And he took me to his home after the workout, and he made my very first meal that I can truthfully call it a vegan meal. And I'm gonna tell you, I had the roughest time with digesting food. I always say this, if I was in a belching contest, I would have been victorious. I made the largest belches of anybody because I had no knowledge of how I was supposed to eat, how I was supposed to combine the food. I didn't even know there was such thing as food combining. I was ignorant. This guy, first day, gives me 2 books. I'm like, he's making me run heels. He's giving me vegan food with no meat, and he's giving me books. And so it was the biggest blessing I think that has ever been bestowed upon me. You guys, I read those books only because he had them autographed by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, and it was a hardcover. And he looked at me and said, I do not loan my books, but I'm going to loan you this, but you need to read this book. Best thing I've ever done in my life. What is it? Fit for Life? Volume 1 is going to teach you how to combine your food. When they started addressing everything that I was going through in that book because of the way that I was eating, when they started addressing everything, and then I started putting it into practice, I was like, oh my God! I did not know that you should only eat melon on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. All of your fruit should be eaten in the morning on an empty. When you sleep all night long, it's like a fast. You do not. Y'all ever been to grandma's barbecues where somebody got a big old bowl of fruit and every fruit that's on the planet is scooped up in that one bowl? I did not realize until I read that book that you have sweet fruit, subacid fruit, acid fruit. You can mix subacid and sweet, but you're not supposed to mix acid and sweet. So that's like, don't eat an orange and a banana. Not a great combination. Also, beans. When you cook beans, they're both carbohydrate and protein. And then we're always eating with cornbread and meat and rice and all. And that's why the Belgians were so loud, y'all. That's why I couldn't digest my food. I'm telling you, I was bloated all the time. And it was just a hot mess. I was a hot mess until I read that book. And then the book, The Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Eric. Oh my God, he was way before his time. You know, this guy thought, he felt like disease, illness is an overload of inflammation. You're just all inflamed, period, over and out. That's when I started understanding the importance of knowledge. Knowledge is power. And it's healing. I don't want to take up all the time.
Well, I want to kind of go from once you realized how you combine the food, right? Now you're with Rondell. Now the two of you are building this vegan life together. You're obviously starting to work out more because you're with somebody who's active, has an active lifestyle. Tell us how Stuff I Eat, which is, if you don't know, that's Babette's restaurant in Inglewood, California. Tell us how that became. How did you guys come up with that? How did it become a reality?
Well, at first we were only, we were making all these vegan meals and they were tasting so amazing, especially to somebody like myself, And I don't know, one day we thought, I thought I was going to be a singer too. I really did. I met him, he was in the music, I thought I could sing.
Well, she does sing very good.
Really good.
My ear wasn't too good back then, but... So I thought I was going to be a singer, and I went to Japan, and while I was over there, the group I was with, they were writing music, rehearsing, the whole 9 yards. I was working out and shopping and cooking, and I meditated so much while I was in Japan. I knew when I got back home, food was it for me, not singing. But so I got back home, and Ron and I decided, well, let's just get a food truck. Why don't we built a food cart, and we went over to Agape Spiritual Center, and we were able to sell food on the parking lot after services and we were there for 6 years. We started accumulating block-long lines because guess what? We appealed to the palate. It was all organic, and we're still all organic. But we made the food taste like most of us are accustomed to eating. You know what I'm saying? We had tacos, we had burritos, we had quesadillas. In the restaurant, I have a soul food platter now. I mean, it's kind of gluttonous, but it's still organic soul food. And I've had customers, and I mean, to answer your question, that's how Stuff I Eat started. We decided that I think people would really, really enjoy this. When we opened the doors to Stuff I Eat in 2008, when we got the place in 2004, it took us 4 years to even open the place because we didn't have any money. But goddamn, sometimes, y'all, you ain't gotta have no money. Sometimes all you gotta have is the desire. Sometimes all you have to do is understand your purpose and live that purpose. And so that's what we did.
Amazing. And it's been around now for how many years?
Well, we opened the doors in 2008. We made it through COVID, and we're still open.
Yeah. So you're doing something right, because if you made it through COVID, I think that is the testament to restaurants, right? Like if you were able to survive that time as a restaurant, you were definitely doing something successfully. I want to get into your day-to-day, because this is always what blows my personal brain. She wakes up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to start her day. So I want to kind of get into what your days look like. But I want to back into the science as well, and why your days, why you can function the way you do throughout the day. And so let's kind of start with your early mornings, and like the 3 o'clock when you're opening your eyes for the first time up until about that 8 a.m. hour. What does that time of day look like for you? And then I want to pop it over to our Dr. Shab to chat about that.
Well, first off, I wake up between the hours of 2 and 3, and usually it's a bathroom run. I'm like clockwork now. I'm not a heavy eater. I don't eat a lot of bulky foods. I'm more into nutrients at 74 years old. Nutrition is extremely important to me. And once I left the sugar and the dairy and all that stuff alone, the asthma went away, the eczema went away, and started working out regularly and juicing. I'm into a lot of green stuff. So my body it's working beautifully right now. So I wake up, like I said, generally a bathroom run. I have a really beautiful deep tub at home right now. So every morning as I listen to Reverend Michael Beckwith, I have an opportunity to meditate and be quiet and still for a few. And then I know that I've got to get over to the restaurant because since COVID, it's been hair challenging to find the employees that we need. So I have been literally doing all of the cooking and prepping for Stuff I Eat since COVID. I know, you're never done in a restaurant either. And now I am challenged with carpal tunnel again on the right hand and trigger finger on the left. So I'm overdoing it pretty much. And I just want everybody to understand, I never claim that I'm running 100. I don't claim that. None of us are. I learn every single day something on this journey called life. But I've also learned that the greatest thing I can do is embrace this amazing gift of life and show the intelligence how much I appreciate it through self-love and self-care. And that is where I am right now. So yes, I get up early in the morning, I go over to the restaurant, And if I don't have enough employees that day, I will stay there until we close and help make plates and serve food after cooking all the food.
3 to 8 a.m. 3 to 8. That's where we're stopping at because she'll pop off for the rest of the talk and I won't be able to talk about the science. So let's start with 3 to 8 a.m. Do you think she's motivated? Do you think she's motivated?
Yeah.
Is she inspired by her life?
Yes.
Do you hear regularity as a common theme? For us to have a healthy baseline of dopamine is what helps us feel motivated every day to do our tasks. And to have a healthy baseline of dopamine, what we really need is a regular upkeep of consistent efforts. And there are multiple things that we can do to really create that pool of reserve of dopamine that we need. And I'm sure you guys have gone to hear the Sure Eyes talk, right? They're not simply just talking about diseases, they're talking about the brain. And dopamine is a big part of that. And what we find with Babette is that sufficient sleep really actually restores your dopamine stores. And how many hours of sleep do you get a night, Babette? Just give me a number.
Embarrassingly enough, sometimes I fall asleep at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I might wake up at 10 thinking it's the next day.
But so if she wakes up at 6 p.m. and she wakes up around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
she's getting her 8 hours every night, and that immediately pulls up that dopamine store. Secondarily, what she talked about was non-sleep deep rest, NSDR. This isn't the same thing as meditation. Think of things like yoga nidra, the long inhaling and exhaling breaths. Those of you that have come to my class in the morning, you notice that we focus about that, we talk about it. Because what that does is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, it activates the vagus nerve, and all of a sudden we get into this rest and relaxed state. But what it also does is this NSDR process, and the fact that she does it daily, can increase the amount of dopamine in your dopamine reserves by 65%. 65%. Are you just taking the time to breathe? And what we often say is if you can get your breath count to anywhere between 8 seconds to 10 seconds, that's about 6 breaths per minute. That's a dopamine fix, folks. And that is being completely not distracted. And that's what she does. She puts herself in the tub, she turns off the lights, she listens to something that inspires her, meditates, that focuses on that elongated yoga nidra breathing. She's got a good source of stores. Third point that I want to say about the 3 to 8 a.m., because there's more to happen later with dopamine, is that we start to see sunlight as a major precursor, right, to increasing your dopamine stores. Getting 5 to 10 minutes of bright sunlight in your face, in your eyes, can immediately boost those reserves. Please do not look directly into the sun and say, Dr. Islam told me to look and get sun in my eyes, and then you burn your retina. Don't be silly. If it is a shady day, you can still increase your dopamine stores by getting access to sunlight. You just need a little bit more time, 10 to 20 minutes. The darker the clouds, the longer the time you spend. But be really conscious about doing those things in the morning, right? Sleep, non-sleep deep rest, and what else? Sunlight, early morning sunlight, okay?
That's great. Let's hop into the 8 to 12 hour. Now you're at the restaurant, you kind of got things going. What is the next 4 hours of the day look like for you?
So we are pretty much all organic. It's a vegan restaurant. We're all organic. We don't really feed our customers out of boxes and bags, and it's all fresh food. So every 25-pound box of potatoes or yams or anything like that comes in there, I'm peeling those things or dicing those things. I do it all. But if I won't eat it, I'm not going to sell it to my customers. And so I'm busy from that time till noon. We open our doors at noon, And like I said, it's been challenging finding help. And there have been days that I've stayed there till closing, helping to serve our customers.
Let's talk a little bit. I want you to talk a little bit about what you've ingested, because now we're almost, we're at noon, so you've ingested something by this point in the day.
I usually start my day with fluid. I love the green drinks. I've got a favorite green drink. It's cilantro, kale, lemons, lots of ginger, and green apples. And you make it palatable. I'm not trying to drink a glass of blueberries. So I'm putting enough apples in there that's going to give me that little kick of sweet, but the ginger is going to heat it up. Oh my God, that's my go-to. However, I like the smoothies as well. So I make a big thing of juice, and then if I determine that I want to go ahead and have a smoothie, then I might add some fruit into that. Now the reason that I feel like I can eat it that way is because it's already broken down. It's pre-digested, pretty much.
Micronutrition.
Right. So that's pretty much what. And I'm like my soul food platter, for instance. I find it to be extremely gluttonous. Listen, even in Black families, y'all sisters back there, y'all know, you do not need both potato salad and coleslaw, right? When we give you potato salad, coleslaw, black-eyed peas, greens, cornbread, mac and cheese, barbecue tofu, or barbecue jackfruit. Did I say cornbread? Okay, so that's a gluttonous plate. I have difficulty eating my own soul food platter right now, but it's a huge seller. Nut burgers. I make my burgers out of walnuts, so I don't sell Impossible or anything like that. I've got like about 4 ingredients in the walnuts, including quinoa and a little wild rice blend. I pack them out, and we have a huge hit for burgers and stuff I eat, all made by hand. So that's the love that we want to ingest is the love that we share with our customers.
And Shabnam, because she's been up for several hours at this point, she's only really had a green drink. Why is she able to have this much energy in only having had 64 ounces of green juice?
Okay, there was a lot to unpack in that conversation. First things first, Babette loves what she does. She loves being with her customers. She finds joy in it. It doesn't feel like a job, right? That boosts your baseline dopamine.
Yeah,
she gets that feel every day. Every day. So on top of that, now we start to think about the nutrition, right? We're not only just talking about micronutrition, vitamins, minerals, fiber, right? Phytochemicals, everything that she's getting at. We're talking about macronutrition, carbs, fats, and proteins. And what most people think is that they're not getting an adequate amount of protein, carbs, and fats if you're particularly having a juice. And maybe you do have nominal amounts of fats. But what she's saying is she eats copious amounts of seeds and beans and nuts. And they all go inside her drink. And usually everything she does have that she puts in there is seasonal. So she's not really going to grab something that is not available to her in the state. Luckily, we're in California, so we have great seasonal produce. But what I want you to think about is that nutrition plays a huge role also in dopamine receptors. And tyrosine is the rate-limiting enzyme for dopamine. And tyrosine-rich foods are things that are found in soy products, peanuts, legumes. We have bananas, avocados, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and 5 out of 7 of those, Babs has every day. Definitely avocados, definitely bananas, definitely some type of seed. She's eating a ton of soy. Dopamine, motivation, keep it going, and it changes her physique. And oftentimes when we think about the food that we have to eat, nutrient timing is key. If I want to replenish my amino acid pool, replenish my muscle glycogen, I'm going to need to have a bolus that allows me to do so. But when I do it is important. And what ends up happening with Babette is she goes to work out in the next half. So what she's preparing for here is the preparation for exercise. And oftentimes it's just a green drink. And people go, what? Well, think about how many calories, grams of sugar, fiber are in multiple types of fruits. We could have a smoothie that could be dense, 650 calories, that she actually only sips on throughout the day. So it's not that she's drinking 4 of them per day, and if she wanted to, she'd be fine. But she gets enough adequate nutrition, antioxidants, protein, carbs, and fats because there's a multitude of vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. She puts broccoli in her smoothies at times. If it's there, she'll juice it, she'll eat it. Because she has green apples to make it feel better or taste better. So what I want you to see here is that there are copious amounts of studies that actually talk about what she's doing. And so let me just there's a 2025 study here called Anti-Aging Behavioral Lifestyle Modification Strategies to Produce Positive Epigenetic Changes in Older Adults. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this study, it was published this year and really mimics a lot of what Babs does. And a big component of this study, which involved 18 participants aged 61 to 80, okay, who underwent a 4-month program. They include plant-based diet, juicing, regular physical activity, which means up to 5 days a week, okay, intermittent fasting, stress reduction techniques. You heard that NSDR stuff she does in the morning. And then, of course, educational components that address these gaps. So you hear the books that she reads. You hear the things and the people that she's listening to. All of these elements have shown that they have significant biochemical, physiological, and psychosocial improvements in all of the participants that went in there. Age 61 to 80. What they did see was great gains of muscle hypertrophy. Even at that age, they had a capacity to grow muscle by more than 30% with a plant-based diet and juicing. No carnivore, no need for dairy, simply following whole food plant-based. And at a particular age, I may say, where people say, well, I've got sarcopenia, I'm experiencing muscle loss. Or I have osteoporosis, I'm exhibiting bone mass density loss. But they were able to build up because of the foods that they did and because of the frequency of the exercise. So I implore you that whole food plant-based can reduce your cholesterol, according to this study, by 13%. That's significant biomarker changes. It is never too late. 61 to 80, they started a program and they did it over 4 months and it changed their lives. Keep that in mind.
We're kind of easing into the end of the day. You're kind of past the lunch hour. What does the rest of the day look like? So if you're able to get away from the restaurant, do you go work out at that point? Do you head home and get some rest? Let's kind of close out the rest of the day and let us know, like, when you go work out, what are you eating before, during, or after a workout, and so we can understand how you're fueling your body for the intense workouts that you do.
Okay, normally, if I'm able to stop work at a decent hour, especially living in Los Angeles with the overwhelming traffic there, there are times that I've gone over to Shab's, and she has a beautiful gym in her home, and I've worked out with her. She's an incredible trainer because she is a doctor. You know, she really puts me in the right place. It's kind of mean sometimes. No, but seriously, as I said, I'm always after nutrients. So there have been times that I have gone to shops with just eaten a salad or one of my green smoothies, and we have a full-on hour or more workout, and maybe she and I will go, she has a great vegan restaurant close to her home, and we've gone there. LA Vegan Thai, and I love Thai food, so we go over there and I'll have, but I'm always eating before a certain hour. I cannot stand eating food after 6 o'clock in the evening. I just can't. I can't do it. It's too much. So that's pretty much how I do it. Yeah.
Stop popping.
So also, I think when we're talking about this, let's talk a little bit about the intermediate fasting.
Yeah, do that.
Because she kind of stops eating at 6, she naturally does intermediate fasting, right? Because she doesn't start eating again probably the next day until at least noon is when she's going to have her first.
No, I'm gonna have
Juice
juice in the morning. I'm gonna have juice in the
Yeah.
morning. But I do. You're talking about intermittent fasting, but I do fast periodically, at least 4 times a year. It's a must for me. Not just the detox, but abstaining from food. And my preference is the Master Cleanse. If you guys are familiar with the Master Cleanse, you can go Google the Master Cleanse. And it's pretty much lemon juice, cayenne pepper, maple syrup, and water. And I do that for 10 to 15 days. But I try to do it 4 times a year. Now I also have products that I believe in. I have a company, Earth and Sea Wellness, so I'm into a lot of sea moss. And so, I'll do detoxes with some of those products, but the go-to is the Master Cleanse. I absolutely love it.
And she does longer detoxes as well, with just water. I mean, she's done a water detox for several days. She's done a 30-day detox, and this is something that, I mean, she'll come over and we'll be doing rescue videos, and she'll be like, "Oh, I can't eat it because I'm on a detox," or I'll force her to eat it and I'll mess up her detox or something. But she does this often throughout the year to reset, and she's mentioned inflammation in the body several times. Something she really believes that these detoxes get rid of that inflammation and just really help to reset for the rest of the year.
Intermittent fasting has been shown, there are multiple studies that show that it can be effective, and then we have other studies that show that it's not effective. But what I've read in the research literature more often than most, even with high-risk clientele, those that have type 2 diabetes, that if they engage in a medically mandated, overseen by a doctor, intermittent fasting program, fasting can range from not eating anywhere between 12 to 24 hours. Oftentimes we look 12 to 16 hours is the idealistic range of intermittent fasting, which is when we say we go to sleep. 7 p.m., we get up at 3, and then we don't actually eat anything until 8. That's 12 hours right there, right? What we find is that it can actually impact our blood glucose levels and our A1C levels. We found that a 16-week intermittent fasting for those with type 2 diabetes actually improved their biomarkers. So it is possible, but again, I always suggest if it's something new, I would just dive into intermittent fasting and water fasting without talking to someone first. What else did you say that you did between 3 days? No, what hour are we on? We're in the workout.
Yeah,
okay.
And what she might consume after that.
So again, when we're talking about movement, because she's consistent, right? What we find with movement is that movement also has a capacity to increase dopamine levels, which increases our motivation to do it again and again and again. And what we find is that it takes minimally 5 days a week, to start feeling the impacts of how exercise can increase dopamine stores. So we're looking at 5 to 7 days a week of consistent exercise. Now you can also increase your dopamine levels by doing things like having a PR, doing a tough bout of exercise, high intensity. So there's multiple things that we can do where we have her do pull-ups, we have her do kettlebell swings. She's carrying her body weight in kettlebells because she can. Because it doesn't matter what age you are. If you can't squat your body weight, pull your body weight, push up your body weight, you're setting yourself up for a real big problem down the line. That commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up, is a very big deal. And oftentimes it is a fall, or the risk of the fall, that ends up leading to morbidity, mortality, right? It's not the fact that you broke your hip and you're incapable, it's the fact that now you can no longer move. And movement, my friends, is life. It is life. And so, from 12 to 4, she comes over and she's already got her shake. Now, in clinical exercise physiology, if we want to see impacts in exercise, every 15 minutes, I will require an athlete to consume a 3-to-1 ratio of carbohydrates to protein, which let's say about 15 grams of carbs to about 5 grams of protein. And if you have a very heavily blended vegetable and fruit drink, you've got those components in them. I'm not counting the macronutrient profile. I'm veggie counting. What's the quantity of vegetables and fruits that you have in your drink? That qualifies. You don't have to look at carbs, fats, and proteins all the time. Are you eating the rainbow? And if you are, be happy with it. So as she continues to exercise over the course of 60 minutes, every 15 minutes she is sipping on that drink alongside drinking water. There is a dual component. Hydration is incredibly important for metabolic function. After she eats, or after we work out, we immediately eat. Within 30 to 45 minutes, we replenish those glycogen stores and amino acid pools. She's going to eat a diet, and if you look at her plate, 70% is hydration, 30% is dense food. Meaning a majority of the plate is either fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, and 30% can either be a grain, some rice, some dense tofu, but that's what she does. And that's pretty much the only time she eats, because that's what she needs. She gets her caloric content throughout the day. It just doesn't always have to be dense food. Does that make sense? And she feels light. She feels good. Her skin is glowing. She has energy. She has dopamine.
And when I go down, I can get up.
And when you go down, you can get up.
Let's continue that round of applause for Chef Babette and thank her for being so vulnerable and telling her story. We are going to leave this last portion of our time together for questions. And if anyone has anything, they can just shout it out from where they are. We don't want to talk over anybody, so we'll call on you.
I have arthritis in my shoulder. I do work out 5 days a week. Should I push through that?
No.
Thank you.
She asked, she said she has arthritis in both shoulders. Should I push through the pain? My answer is no. Pain is an indicator that something is wrong. There's an inflammatory agent happening in that joint. Now, if you and I were working individually and we were doing some functional range conditioning and I got the ability to assess you fully, to see your capabilities, to know what is causing this particular impingement, then yes, there are chances that you and I would push through the pain, but you have a medically guided coach doing so.
I got you.
Right? So,
And I had a torn rotator cuff. I had a torn rotator cuff. That is no joke. I've had several surgeries, but that was absolutely the worst surgery I've ever had in my life. And then when you come back from it, it's as bad as the injury, because then you got to learn to move your arm all over again to protect your shoulder.
Thank you.
Any suggestion for osteoporosis?
do you lift heavy?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Is there any suggestion for osteoporosis? And I ask, do you lift heavy weights?
Started doing that consistently.
The only way to increase muscle mass and bone density is to add a strong percentage of intensity. Now, if I want to increase muscle mass or strength, I'm going to work anywhere between 45 to 65% of my one arm. So let's just say I bench press 100 pounds. That's my one arm. I can only bench press 100 pounds. once. So if I want to build strength, I have to push that about 45 pounds to 65 pounds, anywhere between 8 and 12 reps. But if I really want to get strong, I need to work at up to 70 to 75% of my 1RM. Now you need to push 75 pounds, 10 to 12 reps, to actually develop that bone density and muscle mass. Now, this is all relative. What I can lift is not what you can lift. I can squat 150 pounds on my back, which is probably not too much. But if you can only squat 10 pounds and your range of motion is here, there is no way I'm going to load it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the functionality of your hip joint, your knee joint, so that as you start to squat, you can do so full ranges of motion. And so we build joint integrity so that when I do start loading you, you can build that strength in every muscle, in every bone from the ground up. And so the heavier you go, the more important it is. But you do have to build your way up to that. And so I always say, hire a coach. If you care about your health, invest in it. How many of you will probably spend $1,500 on coffee at Starbucks per year, but you'll wince at paying a personal trainer $100 an hour? How much do you care about you? If you're willing to pay for your illness, why would you not be willing to pay for your wellness?
I live in Michigan, so sometimes it's hard to get that sunlight. And I have a full spectrum light. Is that a good substitute, like in the winter when it's this dark?
Listen, you can still get that sunlight through those deep, dark clouds. That's what we're trying to tell you. The sun's always there. You get less of that UV radiation, but what we do get is still there. So I should say increase your time out there. Kind of sucks because it's the winter. But maybe if you have a room that has windows and you can just sit by it, have your coffee, read the paper, but avoid looking at a screen. The goal is to just have the only thing enter the retina is the focus of sunlight. That's why we don't want you to be distracted with other ailments if your focus is increasing dopamine in the morning, right? Okay? It can't be distracted, and it should be without sunglasses. All right?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What's your opinion of using a weighted vest for osteoporosis?
I love it. What is my opinion on using a weighted vest for osteoporosis? I love them. I love weighted ankle weights. I have clients that have the wrist weights. Whatever you're comfortable with. But added load is added load. But that is not a weighted vest. If it has adequate percentage of load, is the only way it's going to change it. If you carry around 5 pounds, it's not going to change it. 5-pound dumbbell curls will not change your bone density. You need to lift heavy, and don't be afraid of it. Do you think she looks bulky, fat, because she lifted too heavy? The reason why she is this sexy is because she lifts heavy. Let's make that very clear. We are not overweight because we lift too heavy. We are overweight because we eat too much, and we don't lift enough, and then we don't eat at the right times, and we don't eat the right things. Stop blaming the weights on the other multifactorial things that are causing the main issue at hand. Take responsibility. Eat whole food plant-based. Be nutrient timing. Wake up early, go to bed early. Do the work. Be consistent, and you'll see the results. Okay.
I understand you drink juice, also smoothies. Can you talk about when to use what? What is the advantage drinking juice versus smoothies at certain times?
So the question was, what's the advantage of doing juicing over smoothies and what time of day?
For out of the
First off, when you juice, it's pre-digested pretty much. So the nutrients are going to reach the cellular level right away. Even if I make a smoothie, there would be some digestion that has to go down because all I'm doing is blending up fiber. And it still has to, go through the digestive process. My preference is the juice because I need the energy for all that I do during the I'm cooking everything in the restaurant by myself. Who does that? There's always prep people, and so juicing is number one for me. You guys, I'm telling you the honest to God truth. I don't even feel badly if I don't get to eat a lot of bulk during the day. If I've had my juice, 2 or 3, I can 64 ounces, that's nothing for me. It's just important. Now let me tell you how I did some of the other nutrients. I make this incredible raw bundt cake. I know you don't want me to hush. But this bundt cake, look, let me tell you what I put in this bundt cake. I take a bundt cake and I take walnuts. I got this granola, this organic granola that has so many pumpkin seeds in it. And I grind all of that up together with a little, say, cacao powder. And then once it's all grounded up, it's like that's my cake. Put a little agave in that, pat it in the bottom of my pan, and then I'll take some avocado and mix that up with some agave and some coconut oil and a little bit of sea salt and cacao powder, and then that's the middle of my cake, and I plop that in there, and then put a little bit more of that cake stuff on there, and then put a little bit more of that avocado stuff on there, and put that bad boy in the freezer, and then when I take it out, it's nice and hard, I take me some water and just run it over that pan, and let that cake come out. Honey, I will eat up that bundt cake, because it's full of nutrients. What did I just say? I said walnuts, seeds, avocado, and I have a cake. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, when you buy that book of mine tomorrow, Cashing In on Cashews, I'm even gonna have that recipe in there.
That's actually a really good segue because we have a cooking class. It's a boot camp. I don't even know if there's any spaces left for it, so you'll have to check. It could be sold out, but it's on Friday afternoon, and Babette and I will be teaching 4 different raw dessert recipes, very similar to the one that she just mentioned, but it's going to be all different recipes. We're using whole foods, but they're all really, really tasty. So you'll want to come by that on Friday afternoon if you get a chance.
Yeah, wait, right quick. When you can eat a dessert and it's nutritious, then ain't no dessert.
You said something about juicing versus smoothies, and I just want to. How many times do you see people will fill their plates with food and continue to go back and just not be satiated because it's lacking micronutrition? And that's what we often see with raw food and with juicing. It will immediately satiate you because it's not solely just the macros that you're getting, the carbs, fats, and proteins. Now you're getting the vitamins, the minerals, the nutrients that we so densely need, the antioxidants that every cell in our body actually truly craves. And the reason why we starve for more is because those cells feel starved of that micronutrition. And so that is why people often overeat.
Yes.
Okay? And so what you're seeing here is that I love that she talks about the pumpkin seeds and the nuts, is because these branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, taurine, tyrosine, these are all things inside of these pumpkin seeds that she's talking about. So not only does it give her plant-based protein, these essential amino acids are really setting up a building block for her over time. Yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could talk about any supplements that you might take in your skincare routine.
Supplements and skincare routine.
Just look, use the mic. Actually, I use a lot of
Orlo.
The Orlo and, no, I'm talking about my, yes, what? Thank you. I always forget. Sea moss. I do a lot of sea moss. And I don't know if you all have heard of the product Orlo. It's omega-3, vegan omega-3. It's a great product. I was tested and my counts were pretty low. And I got on it and now I'm where I'm supposed to be. But I don't do a whole bunch of, extra stuff, y'all. I don't. I get so much of my nutrients from what I ingest.
Now just to say that omega-3s, DHA and EPA, can often be naturally made in the body if you're incorporating alpha, foods that include like alpha-linoleic acid or ALA, or if you take an ALA supplement. But sometimes that doesn't happen naturally in every human body, which is why we really do recommend supplementing with an omega-3 or an algae-based omega-3, omega-6 can really be beneficial, not only just for vegans, but for people as you age, right? So I also am taking an omega-3, so I would highly recommend.
And the sea moss, so Babette will add that to either her juice, her smoothie, like she just takes a spoonful of it as well because she does it every day.
I'll put it in salad dressing.
Yeah, she'll do like a salad dressing with a blueberry sea moss and make like a blueberry salad dressing. There's 92 of the 102 minerals. So it's packed with like everything you possibly could want in your day. So it's a really, really, really powerful superfood that you can just add in. It essentially has no flavor to it. So you can people even put it in their coffee in the morning. So you can blend it into anything really, and that's a great way to just pop in your nutrients. And Babette does Earth and Sea Wellness. She has a lot of different tonics and just natural stuff on there. That's really the way that she supplements, but she doesn't use like protein powders and things of that nature or like multivitamins because she's getting all of that micronutrient.
And oftentimes, like iodine is such a huge source we get in these sea veggies, sea moss. So most Americans get their iodine from. So if you want to avoid that, start getting some sea moss. Okay? And by the way, get the better sea moss. I do too.
And she also asked, I'm sorry, this mic. You asked about a skin regime. I believe it or not, maybe I should be embarrassed by this, but I use a lot of coconut oil. I even put it on under the makeup. Is that?
No, I'm veggie. Like, it's one of the longest, oldest Ayurvedic principles you can imagine. It's a natural resource. You put it in your hair, you put it on your skin. It's a natural oil. Why wouldn't you use it?
Put it everywhere.
Why wouldn't you use it?
They must use a lot of coconut and cocoa butter, okay? That's what our room smells like right now. I can attest to coconut and cocoa butter. Any other questions?
So, if I'm not too familiar with juicing, but if you juice, are you not getting rid of the fiber?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely you are.
Get rid of the fiber?
Absolutely, you're getting rid of the fiber with juicing. But is that the only fiber you're getting in your day?
And I'm wondering if you're concentrating solely or mostly on juicing, then what's the fiber content?
But that's not what she's saying.
No.
She's saying she does duality of that.
Yeah.
Right?
But basically, in terms of, I know that if I get rid of the fiber in the juice, she just said this, the nutrients reach the cellular level immediately.
Okay.
It's pre-digested for me.
Yes.
But when I do a smoothie, like I had a drink today, here, made for me here. I told them all the ingredients that I wanted in it, but what they did was they took the ginger and the apple juice and the lemon juice and poured it on top of fresh kale and put it in a blender.
Yes.
So I wound up with a juice that had lots of fiber.
Okay.
We can go that route, but when I want the nutrients specifically to reach the cellular level right away, I'm abstaining from the fiber. I only want the juice.
And so she tends to scaffold that approach in the day. In the beginning, when she wakes, she has a juice.
Yeah.
She's busy, so she's getting that micronutrition immediately, and then she shifts to a smoothie.
Okay.
So then the rest of the day is very high fiber intake. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Because there are a lot of people that go, oh, solely juicing, yes, and it can raise blood sugar levels. If you're only drinking juice all day long, we can have some issues with that. So we always do recommend the fiber.
Did you do anything with the leftover pulp from the fiber?
Well, it all it really all depends on what the pulp is. Like, say for instance, if I was going to make a carrot juice drink, I make sure I clean my carrots really good, and I take the pulp and I make carrot and tuna. So whatever you put in your old tuna salad, you put those ingredients in your carrot pulp, and you've got carrot and tuna. And I sell that at the restaurant.
That was a great question.
Yeah, that's a really, so I wouldn't juice for a really long time because I didn't know what to do with all of the scraps, and I just felt like it was very wasteful. So it is really important. There is a ton of things that you can do with your juicing scraps. Carrot and tuna is a great one. That's a great place to use the carrot pulp. But all of your other veggie scraps, you can turn into dehydrated crackers. You can mix, there's a lot of recipes. So plug in your Google, what do I do with juice scraps? And you'll find actual recipes to use. But depending upon how good your juicer is, you'll still have some nutrients. Babette has like an incredible juicer. I have one that's no good at all. So it leaves like a lot of actual juice still in there. So depending upon what I've juiced, I can throw some of the green stuff into like a pasta salad, and it's still there, it's still good. So that's where you can get your fiber from that. So there is stuff you can do, and I totally get that waste portion of it as well.
What about B12? Well, when we find B12, of course, get a shot. Just get a shot, folks. We had this conversation multiple times earlier, and the most robust way, you're going to get B12 from microorganisms. So there really is, unless you're ingesting something that comes, there's no way you're going to do it. And sometimes people take a sublingual or they take a supplement, but the stomach acid may not actually be able to tolerate that. It breaks it down prior to it being digested, so you actually don't have it in the bloodstream. Which is why we say the most robust way to get B12 is just get a shot. I get it every 8 to 12 weeks, usually. Yeah.
You also have questions for up on the top 10.
I see you waving.
So Babette uses a NAMA juicer.
NAMA.
So if you want to go directly onto her Instagram profile, there's a link in there for virtually everything we've talked about: Earth and Sea Wellness, Orlo, and the NAMA juicer. So you can click on all of that kind of stuff directly from her Instagram profile, and it'll take you to like the juicer and all of that.
Now, the reason I really love the NAMA so much is that I could actually use wheatgrass in there. I'll throw my wheatgrass in with the rest of my fruit, and it spins slow enough that I can actually put my wheatgrass in there. So I just love that NAMA juice. It's incredible.
She loves it. She loves the NAMA juice. She actually has one now at the restaurant. She doesn't even use her like industrial juicer. She uses that one instead. So yeah, she really loves that one. Sir?
My blood glucose and cholesterol all fine. No problems there. I do love bananas. I'm a teacher, so you only have one certain time to eat during the day, and it's only for half an hour. And then after I get out of school, I'm running to the gym. So it keeps me from being full as I'm walking around the room, is having a banana and eating it, or when I first get to my classroom, eating a banana. So, is there a limit as to how many bananas you can eat?
No, you're not going to turn into a banana by eating all those bananas. You're going to be just fine.
She worries about, well, that's too much sugar.
Could you stand up and show me how overweight you are? And what did you say about your glucose markers? So what's this conversation we're having? Exactly.
Eat the bananas. Eat the bananas.
If we had more people sitting down eating a bunch of bananas on the airplane, we would not have issues with seats, would we?
You know, I'm sorry. She's wondering if we lose the nutrients if we've had the juice for too long. Is that right? Okay. Well, what I've learned is that first of all, if you're storing any juice, I use what are those?
The airtight concealers.
Mason jars. I make sure I fill it to the proper spot, and I make sure that I keep it lidded and refrigerated. But if I'm drinking my juice, I don't trip with the one that I'm drinking, but the one that I'm saving, I make sure I put it in a mason jar because you can lose some of the nutrients. So go ahead.
In my gym, I have a fridge.
Right.
So she literally puts them in the fridge and she takes them out every 10 minutes and sits on it and puts it back in the fridge.
But the mason jars are perfect.
But it is air sealed. So yes, you do.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to want to necessarily juice on Monday for the week because that's not going to, stay fresh. Those juices that we see in the supermarket that are bottled in there, they have a ton of, preservatives and stuff in them that are different from the juice you're going to press at home. So you're not going to want to press, I would say, for more than 2 or 3 days at a time.
I'm pretty fresh.
Good question.
Question about sunscreen. What's your take on sunscreen?
You asking me?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Her take is about, she wants to know what our take is on sunscreen. I need sunscreen, if you guys can't tell. I apply it, I wear it all the time, I need it.
We all need it.
The evidence shows that there is just a correlation with sun exposure and cancer. I think the element is to do less risk, right? So I have a vegan plant-based sunscreen that I use. It has less chemicals. It is organic. I do the best that I can, but do I need to protect my skin? You do.
And let me share with you, being a melanated woman, I always felt like I came from the sun. I can handle the sun. I do not need a sunscreen. And that's exactly the way I grew up feeling until I got melasma in my face. I would go to Jamaica and burn so badly that the rash would be so thick and you couldn't even touch it. That was sunburn. And where did the melasma come? In my face. So, put your sunscreen on.
What do you recommend? What brand?
Oh,
Coola. I love Coola. Coola. And by the way, because the skin is more melanated, which means that oftentimes more melanated skin has difficulty absorbing vitamin D from the sun. So take a 2000 IU supplement, wear a sunblock.
Your skin is your largest organ
in the body,
right? So you want to protect it at all costs. So anything you put on it, especially if you're protecting the inside of your body by eating a plant-based whole food diet, you don't want to turn around and put something that's completely full of chemicals and trash on your skin because that's your largest organ, right? So yes, protect it with sunscreen, but use something that's clean and natural and not something that's full of a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't ingest. Don't ingest your sunscreen. We have time for one more.
So I hear that squatting is supposed to be really good for your organs and everything. So I know a lot of people can't do it or need to work to it, but how long would you benefit on doing that? Because I know when I work out, I'll go down into a squat and try to stay there, but I tip and I know I need to work on probably some flexibility maybe in my hips and through my ankles or something.
Squatting is a fundamental movement that everybody needs to pursue daily unless we have some sort of physiological limitations, right? We know that there are people that maybe don't have limbs or the ability to do that. However, if you are a functional, able-bodied individual, your goal, remember, hip mobility is really dependent upon the individual. And there are certain cultures that have deeper hip sockets, such as Asian cultures, which is why you see us very comfortably being able to do this. However, I can comfortably do this because those of you that have been in my class have seen my requisite hip mobility. So there are things that we train for because that needs to be. Remember, your glutes are the largest muscle in your body, and we really heavily are dependent upon our lower extremities for what? Locomotor and function. You take away the capacity to keep this mobile, you're gonna be walking like this in no time. How many times do we see maybe older adults doing what we call the old person shuffle? And why is that? The reason is because they've lost so much requisite mobility that they are fearing of falling. And so oftentimes when they walk, they keep their feet on the floor to ensure that they don't lose contact. Because if they lose contact, we have the ability to trip, where the center of mass moves forward over the base of support, or we slip, where the center of mass moves posteriorly over the base of support. The only way we prevent that from happening is making sure our mechanics work as well as they can. Come to my class at 7 a.m. If you really want to learn what your body is capable of, come. Listen, folks, we are expensive people. You came here to learn from doctors, from leaders in this field. We are here to give you the information and education that we have to the masses, because we don't have the capacity to work with you one-on-one on this shit. We want to. But if you want to squat better and move better, then you better be in my 7 a.m. class tomorrow. All right? Jungle pool, 64.
So there's a couple things as we wrap up. We do have a couple of more opportunities to spend time together this week. Dr. Shabnam tomorrow morning and Friday, 7 a.m. by the Jungle Pool. 2 more classes. She'll be on fire like she was today. And then Friday, Babette and myself and Shabnam will be back to do a plant-based seafood class. So we're going to be teaching a few different recipes about how to do seafood creations from plants. And then later that day, Babette and I have the boot camp that you can check in at the Holistic Holiday Welcome Desk and see about booking yourself if it's not sold out. And then later that evening, Babette will be doing a book signing at 7:15. So if you haven't picked up her book yet, do that before they sell out as well, because there's very limited copies. And then you can have her sign it at 7:15 that evening. But we appreciate you guys all coming. There's also a QR code up here on the screen. And this will allow you guys to put your information into our website. And then when we launch, we're going to be sharing a bunch of stuff from the cruise, but also any upcoming trips that we're booking, because we do some traveling over the year where we put on events like this as well.
I am sending everybody these classes. So if you sign up here, give me your email address. We created this so only those who email us from this week, we know that you're going to get access to those workout videos from this week. So if you really want to have some homework, take a picture of the QR code, go to wellnessharmonyconsulting.com, put in your email, and we will get you all of this information.
We'll get out of the way so you guys can all stand up. Thank you so much for joining us today.